Hi, Sandra here. So I'm often asked why I started feeding my dogs raw. Well, that's a bit of a story, and it happened a long time ago because we've been feeding raw now here for over 20 years. But just to kind of give you the short version of the story, 20 years or so ago, we had four dogs. And of those four dogs, um, three of them three of them weren't well. They were just having trouble. A lot of digestive issues, diarrhea, some allergies, you know, the common things that you hear about dogs having. And we were experiencing that with three of our four dogs. The other little guy, he wasn't really having a problem, but anyway, so, off to the vet we went, of course, and at that time we were just feeding like a pet store kibble. I forget what it even was, but one of those premium brands. But anyway, the dogs were having trouble, a lot of diarrhea and gastric upset, and so off to the vet we go, and the usual thing. I guess it still is. The vet, bless his heart, thought, well, put the dogs on some antibiotics to see what happens. And so we did. And we did several rounds of that stuff, and would fix it up for maybe a little bit, and, but not for long. And we'd be back to the same problem. And so then, then we're on the prescription diets from the vet, those ones that they make. I don't even know what they're called anymore. The ones that are made especially for dogs that have, sensitive digestive systems, so they say. Don't know why that should be, but anyway, we were feeding that food, and the truth is, well, it didn't really help the dog. I think it helped them for a little while, maybe. Things were maybe better, for a while, maybe a couple of years, something like that. But I'm not saying they were great either, because they really weren't. And one dog clearly just wasn't well. She just had really a lot of trouble. Anyway, just to kind of cut to the chase, I'm thinking to myself, well, why in the world would these three dogs out of four, really be having so much trouble? Why weren't they healthy? Because, I grew up with dogs, back in the day when people, threw the dog a bone and gave them some table scraps. And because there wasn't actually, back in those days, commercial pet foods were just getting started. There was some canned food, mostly horse meat. I think most of it was made from back then. And I don't know, maybe some beef or chicken or something. And, kibble was just starting. So you can imagine that really it wasn't great quality. But anyway, I came from a family where we had dogs, and my mother, that's how she fed the dogs. She just gave them some of what we were having for dinner, generally the raw portions of that she was throwing away. But anyway, we later on, when I'm on my own, and my husband and I, we had these dogs, and they weren't doing well. And, we were at the vet more often than not, and nothing was really helping. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, gee, maybe I just ought to go back to doing what my mother was doing, because, well, I don't recall any dogs being sick, and certainly nobody was taking them to the vet. I know that much for sure. And so, well, first of all, I started to cook for the dogs. Everybody's been there, right? If you're having trouble with your dog, then you're going to try and take that responsibility into your own hands and do something about it. So yeah, I was making dog food, lightly cooking it, so we're talking about fresh meat and vegetables and like that kind of thing. And really things improved a little bit. Well, they did. They improved, but, still things weren't really great. And then, well, the one dog that really wasn't doing very, very well, she just died. Like one day it seemed to me like she had a fever. She just wouldn't eat, and she clearly wasn't well. So, gee whiz, we go off to the vet, and, the vet wants to keep her over the weekend so he can observe her. And well, that dog didn't even survive the weekend. She just died. And So the vet said, well, I didn't understand it. He didn't understand it either. So he kind of said, well, I don't know. The only thing we can do really is maybe open her up and see if we can see what happened. And so he did. And well, he said to me, she's just ruined inside. Like her organs are not okay, and her bowel's not okay. And well, she died. We put her down. And I was crushed. I mean, I was just heartbroken. And so the other two dogs that weren't doing well, one of those dogs was actually her sibling. And so now I'm really worried about him because he's not doing well either. And neither was the other dog. And anyway, I stuck by the lightly cooked food that I was feeding them. And then one of those dogs, well, that one got really sick too, and we wound up having to put her down. And so then I've got the one dog. Well, I've got two dogs left. The little guy, a little Pomeranian we had at the time, that seemed to be fine, and then my dog Jack, who was actually the sibling of Rosie, the first one that died, and so. Well, I thought, well, the cooked food seems to be working not badly, but maybe I'm just going to go back to doing what my mom was doing. I'm going to, start giving the two of them some raw meaty bones, and I'll try to put together, a raw food dinner. Food for them myself, because, well, who was going to help me? Nobody back in those days, that's for sure. So I had meat and bones, and I bought some liver, and you could buy like beef heart and beef kidney and stuff in the store. You still can, actually, by the way, chicken hearts and chicken livers. And so I was using that, and I was putting a little bit of veg in there, not too much. But anyway, well, Jack just got better. He got a lot better over the course of maybe the next 6 months or a year. And just to, let you know how that story ended without telling you that we actually got other dogs during the time that he was with us. And those dogs, I put them all on raw too. But that particular dog that I'm talking to you about, my old dog, Jack, I call him my old dog because he was old when he finally decided to leave us. He was just short of his 20th birthday by a month or two. So, geez, here you have to look at that, His sister died at 5, and Jack lived until he was 20. And what changed? Well, the diet, the raw food. That's what changed. So that's what started me. That's what started me on the path to raw. I had sick dogs, and so I went from feeding a commercial kibble to cooked raw food that I prepared myself, and then to a raw diet that I prepared myself. And then somewhere along the way, we got the food that we actually sell here now. It's a raw blend. I used to put that together myself, but of course I don't do that anymore because that was a full-time job. I'm not making dog food all day, every day. Because we, right now we have 2 dogs, and we've more often than not had 3 dogs, so it's just way too much work. But that's how I got started feeding my dogs raw. I had sick dogs, and then I didn't have sick dogs when I changed, went from cooked to raw. So anyway, that's something to think about. And, I often look back on that, and, I just couldn't have made a better, choice of where to go trying to solve my dog's health problems with diet. So that's why I started to feed raw.